The term Muslim can be applied to a large group of people, but it is important to note that this could mean a variety of things. It's similar to the term Christian. Some are secular, some are orthodox, some are Pentecostal. It's not one size fits all. The reality is there are cultural or secular Muslims who identify as Muslim in Australia, but put no credence in the Islamic texts or Muhammad himself. There are others who pick and choose the nice bits and make up their own religion as they go along. Now, none of them are a threat to our society. They integrate, they call themselves Australians first and foremost, and can be great contributors to our multi-ethnic society. Then you have imams, such as Tahiti, who speak out against terrorism and halal certification. That's great and keeps the conversation in the public arena. But the reality is this kind of imam has very few followers and minimal influence among the wider Muslim community. As shown on the Channel 7 recently, he's mocked, ridiculed and even threatened by the majority of Muslims for criticising some Islamic doctrines, behaviours and attitudes. In terms of making any real progress, the results simply reveal greater division in the Islamic community and even less trust regarding Islam in the broader community. There's no general consensus among Muslims as to who is qualified to be an imam or a leader. Sunnis and Shia fight among themselves, and then there are endless factions within both camps. There's no universally accepted leadership system, and there are countless conflicts regarding what constitutes a good or a bad Muslim. There are multitudes of fatwas, which are basically interpretations of Islamic law, issued every single day by self-appointed leaders that contradict each other and are only accepted by devout followers of that particular sect. And finally, you have a large group of Muslims who do their best to uphold the Quran and Hadiths and follow the example of Muhammad. Some have read the texts and obey them. Others do what their family have instructed them to, or what they've observed at the mosque. Now, it's from this group the extremists and terrorists are likely to arise. If you take note of what is reported in the media, every time an extremist is identified, the Islamic community appears shocked and commonly say things like, "He was a good boy, he started to pray more, go to the mosque more, he became more devout or religious." And therein lies the problem. No one seems to be able to predict who the next extremist will actually be. The authorities would have us believe that they are lone wolves with mental health issues, but the reality points to the fact they are simply Muslims who have chosen to literally obey the Islamic texts and follow the example of Muhammad. And it's not just about extremism. It is about attitudes to women, the religiously sanctioned abuse of girls as child brides, honour killings, female genital mutilation, restrictions on liberty and personal choice, the isolation and intimidation of gays, as well as the persecution of minority groups. Now, this all stems from a literal application of the Quran, Hadiths and example of Muhammad. And an increasing number of Muslims seem to be prepared to literally obey those barbaric commands that are in direct opposition to Western democratic freedoms that we uphold here in Australia. Politicians and the media must start addressing this dangerous example of Muhammad. The life he lived and the example the Quran demands Muslims to follow is completely unacceptable in this country. His example must be broadly and unapologetically condemned. Not excused with theological gymnastics, but condemned as reprehensible and exposed as barbaric and cruel. Muhammad is not the perfect example of a human being, despite what the Quran explicitly teaches. In character and practice, Muhammad was a cruel and merciless warlord, slave owner, slave trader, a rapist, a child abuser, a polygamist, and a violent ruler who reacted to every criticism and opposition. He would be declared a criminal of the most despicable kind were he alive and behaving this way today. His example is dangerous, and for a person to declare he is the perfect human is dangerous and quite frankly foul. For leaders in mosques and Islamic schools to be able to promote his life as an example to follow, it's terrible and it's very dangerous to our wider community. Muslims and Islamic leaders must be asked the very simple question: do you follow and promote the example of Muhammad? Either Allah and the Quran are correct in calling all followers of Islam to emulate his example, or they must be exposed as wrong and declared as the danger to society that it is.